Welcome to the Mindset Game podcast. I'm so thrilled to introduce you to CB Bowman today. CB is the courage doctor for organizations because of her focus on courage implementation to increase capacity for creativity and innovation. She is the CEO of the Association of Corporate Executive Coaches and has been named one of the power list of the top 200 biggest voices in leadership in both 2022 and 2023 by Leaders Hum, as well as being named one of the top 50 coaches in the world by Thinkers 50. Global Gurus named her as one of the top 15 experts in branding. Thinkers 360 named her among the top 50 thought leaders in leadership, diversity and inclusion, and she's among the top 25 in management. And if that's not enough, CB was ranked by Marshall Goldsmith Top Global Coaches as the #1 coach for increasing the quality of coaching. And CB, I could clearly go on and on to speak about the impact that you've had in our world. You're a beautiful human being. I do want to add that your keynotes are really inspirational. They inspire people to re-envision how they think about courage in terms of profitability and a willingness to see failure as a success. And CB, I want people also to know that you are the host of an amazing videocast and podcast titled Courage to Leap and Lead. And it is such a joy and an honor to have you here today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited. Let's go.
Let's go. So share with me, since we're talking about courage today, share with me a time in your life where you have expressed the courage that you wish for our listeners and viewers today to express for themselves.
Do you want a personal or business example? I have tons of them. So which would you prefer?
Yeah, good question. Let's do both, if you don't mind.
Okay. No, I love talking. I'm an introvert. So sometimes when I'm on the stage, I love talking. So I'll tell you about my husband, #1. So I was living a quiet life in New Jersey. And I said to one of the members of my association, I said, I think it's time for me to get married. And she said, really, CB, at this point? I said, yeah, I haven't experienced it. I think it's time that I get married. And she said to me, well, CB, you're not going to find a guy just sitting at home working on the Association of Corporate Executive Coaches. And I said, oh, no, well, no, I'll move. She said, you'll move. I said, yeah, it's time. So she said, okay, well, you have to get out there and you have to, participate in life. So I said, all right. So I decided to sell my house in New Jersey while I was hosting a conference in Colorado. I took my dog, put my house up for sale, got on the plane, went to Colorado, sold my house, and had no place I was going to live. Quite think this through. So I stayed in an extended living hotel, which was fabulous. I was spoiled rotten. And then moved to an apartment in southern Colorado. But I couldn't decide where to live. Should it be Mexico, Arizona, Colorado? So anyway, long story made shorter, I decided it was going to be Colorado. And so I placed an ad in eHarmony. Within 5 days, this man reached out to me and said, I think we should get together. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, wait a second, he didn't follow the rules of eHarmony, which is answer all those questions after questions. I thought this might be my kind of guy, a rule breaker. So we planned to get together and I got sick. So he waited till I got better, which was a month. Then we had a date and I was an hour and a half late because I was new to Colorado and I'm dyslexic. So I got totally lost. And he waited. I did call him to tell him. And he said, no worries, I'll direct you and I'll stand outside the restaurant. And I'm leaving off some of the really good parts. which was, he said, let's get together for coffee. And I said, hell no, we've been talking for a month while I'm sick. He'll take me out to dinner. So he said, oh, okay. So I arrived and I had to ask other women where I was living, how do I dress for this? Because I don't know how to dress for a date in Colorado. I know in New York. So they said, oh, just wear slacks. And I said, I don't have any slacks. And, oh, okay, leggings. I don't have leggings. Anyway, I had to go and buy leggings and I had to go and buy shoes and a top. But I was dressed to kill. I stepped out of my car, which was, and I'm dressed all in black, a black Acura MDX. And I see him, and I had these high boots on with studs along the side. I see him go. I'm going, oh God, you are so busted. You are dead. I said to him on my third date, you have a year to propose to me. And he said, being Italian, smart now, he said, what if I don't? I said, you know that Beyonce song, To the Left? To the left. So again, leaving out the middle, we were in a jewelry store one day, and I said to the guy, you should size my hand, because now it's like a year and 3 months. And he said, okay. And I said, and size his hand too, please. And my husband now looks at me and says, okay. And I said, and darling, there's some nice rings for men over there. And we're walking over there, and he says, do you see any you like? And I said, darling, this is my first marriage. Those rings are too small for me. Get to the men's section, and the sales guy says, you know, Miss Bowman, it's very in for the woman to ask the man to marry her. And I said, what? And he said, yeah. So I turned to my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, and I said, so will you marry me? And he said, sure. And that was courage.
Wow. A whole lot of courage. Oh my gosh. All of it from the beginning, from the very beginning.
I read Steve Harvey's book, Think Like a Woman, Act Like a Man, something like that, whatever. And it was the best guidebook I've ever read for getting married. My husband likes to brag that I proposed to him. So
a phenomenal story. So let's unpack it for a little bit for our listeners. This story, in combination with everything that you've researched and learned about courage, the power of courage, what do you think are those resources or inner abilities, tools that you had to be able to do everything that you did, starting from sell your house to going and in harmony to then, proposing? What do you think it took?
Insanity. No. Now, you know what? I never thought of it as courageous until a friend of mine asked me to give a keynote. And I said to her, well, so what do you want me to talk about? And she's a member of ACEC, so I say yes to everything they ask. And I said, diversity. And she said, no. I said, being a coach. She said, no. I said, what then? She said, courage. And I said, I am not courageous. And she said, CB, you're the most courageous person I know. So when I started to write the keynote, my hands just flew across the keyboard. And I thought, okay, so maybe there's something to this. And I started to analyze why people have said that to me all my life. And what I realized is that in my head, I go through a process of changing fear or failure into success. And I said to myself, everybody, like Brene Brown tells you, you have to be courageous. But nobody's sitting and telling you how. So I need to take these steps that are in my head and put it on paper. And that's what I did.
Wow. So first of all, I'm grateful you did, because I think that the world does need to know how, right? There are many things that people intuitively know they need to do, or that their lives could be better when they do them, but they don't really know how. And when you don't know how, you're not quite really at choice.
That's
And
right.
so it brings empowerment. So what guidance can you give to our listeners and viewers today about how to do this for themselves?
So first, let me tell you about the business side.
Yes,
Um,
please.
as a Black woman in corporate America, I had to face a lot of challenges, especially being the first. People were not used to a Black woman with power, being empathic, being smart. And I remember when I applied for a position at General Foods, I was turned down time after time after time. And I said to myself, this is bullshit. You're going to think about a way to get in. And I sat and I wrote a letter to each member of the board of directors. And I copied the CEO. I was hired within 6 months. When I was applying for my MBA at Pace University, I did not do well on the GMATs because I'm dyslexic. And I said, this is bullshit. I'm getting in. I got in through trickery to the dean. And I told him how I used trickery. And he said, I love it. He said, and if you're that intent on getting in, despite your GMATs, I will let you in on probation. I said, I'll take it. I'm even willing to go back and take some undergraduate courses again. And he looked at me and he said, Bowman, never go back, always go forward. I said, okay, you got it. I graduated with my MBA and ended up sitting on the board of advisors of Pace University's Lubin School of Business. All of those things that I experienced, for me, it wasn't courageous. It was staying my true north, that I had decided what that true north was going to be. And I was determined to get what I wanted each and every time. I would not, and more people said, you can't. I said, I can. I was always inspired by people who said to me, you can't, or you won't be able to. And I said, oh, no. You got the wrong woman. Get ready, hold on tight. And that's not to say I've not had my imposter syndrome. It's to say when that happens to me, I sit myself down and I say, you have two choices, to cry or to succeed. Sometimes I've taken the cry first, and then I sit down and say, okay, let's go. You have to experience all kinds of emotions. I would say that you need to be in charge of those emotions and say, okay, I'm going to allow space for this, and then let's kick ass.
Mm. Wow, you took my breath away, really, because I really honor your, first of all, permission to feel the feelings that you're giving to yourself, right? When the imposter syndrome comes up, when whatever shows up, to allow yourself to meet yourself there, to not pretend it's not there or step over it or reject it. And once that has flowed through you, once you've accepted it and honored it by allowing it, then to say, all right, now I'm at choice, right? How do I want to, do I want to choose success or failure, and when you choose to go for it, how can I make that happen? What is my control or influence, right? I can write the letter to every board member, copy the CEO. I can step into the CEO's office, right? In whatever creative way it might take. And that is what I believe the essence of courage is all about. And as we see here, it's very much interconnected with a mindset, with a deep belief. I believe a few beliefs. One of them, that everything is possible for you. Because if you didn't believe that it was available to you, even though you didn't really have evidence, right? First Black woman doing these things, right? But you believed that it was possible for you, which then inspired you to ask the questions, to get the help, to access the ideas, the resources to make it happen. And then, of course, to take action on those. Right. And that's again where the courage is. So the courage is number one in allowing the feelings. I think number two is then to choose success, to choose to live by your truth. And then, of course, to do everything that it takes to get it.
And it's not easy. I will not say it's an easy path. It's fraught with things to throw you off. But you have to take time in the end to say, I did good. Or that didn't work out the way I wanted to. What did I learn? And let's go again. Because as I say in my book, the best education you can ever get is not sitting in a classroom listening to a professor. It is living life. Life is your university. And you can't pay enough to get what you learned from life.
Yeah. Which requires, like you did in New Jersey, right? Thanks to the advice of, one of the coaches, is to get out and live life to the fullest and experience it.
But even with that, you have to figure out what's your style to do that. So as I mentioned before, I'm an introvert. So going out to parties was not me. Going out to bars was not me. I could write. I'm an incredible writer. So writing my profile and putting it on eHarmony was my way of getting out into the world. And that was scary too. I was a wreck my first date, but I knew he was more nervous than me. So that helped. Because I wasn't looking for a Don Juan. I was actually looking for a guy who would be more nervous than me. Because then that told me that he wasn't a playboy. And I wanted to get married. And so I did not want a playboy. And when this man sat and spoke for 3 hours straight, I said, this could work with an introvert. And I could tell he was nervous. But at the same time, I could tell he was strong enough to have control. And I was looking for a strong man. Yeah. And that doesn't mean a man that won't cry. That means a man who's strong, who knows when the right thing needs to be done. And does it.
Some of the people listening right now might be thinking to themselves, well, I don't feel strong right now. I really wish I had that kind of courage, to take those leaps. I just don't feel strong, or maybe I'm overwhelmed and I'm stressed out and I'm just tired.
And that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Okay. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to feel tired. It's okay to feel stressed out. Put a clock next to it. How many days are you going to allow yourself to be in that mode? And while you're in that mode, start thinking strategically. What are you going to try to get out of it? Allow yourself time. Go for the Haagen-Dazs, watch the serials and TV, go for a walk, go play pickleball, whatever it is you need. While you're doing it, let your mind, which is your category of work, go for a free fall. Think about what if scenarios. What if I can do it my way? Well, it's possible. What do you need to do it your way? That's what the book talks about. What do you need to do it your way? What are some of the tools that you can use to have it done your way? And I always say, the best way for you to do it your way is to make it a win-win for everybody involved. That's the way to do it your way.
Yeah, what a really two cool distinctions there, actually. The first distinction around the courage to do it your way, because people may be given all kinds of advice by their parents, by their peers, their spouses, of how they should do or what they should do. And and real courage is being able to, I believe, to go inward and notice our feelings. How does that feel? Does that feel like something that feels good, that feels exciting, that feels motivating, or does it not? Even though logically it makes the most sense, but how does it feel? And to be able to align our decision with that. I remember years ago, in my early coaching days, I was trained, I've been trained in many assessments, but one of the first ones was the MBTI, the personality assessment. And I remember, I debriefed it with a few clients. And I remember one evening, my husband said, "You know what you should do? You should start an assessment business, and all this stuff." And he had it all planned out for me, the good soul that he is. And I remember, lying there and thinking, doesn't quite feel like, yes, I could do it and I could probably be very successful, but that's not it. I couldn't even pinpoint what was it, but I just had a sense like, that's not quite it. And, and later on, I was also on the side managing some properties that we owned. And, at some point I was like, this is not bringing me joy. And it took a great deal of courage to say goodbye to that too. So, I think that really allowing ourselves to tune into what is right for us,
Yes.
or even at the very beginning, what is not right for us, even if that's all we know, if we don't yet know what it is, but we know what it's not.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. My husband says to me, "You work too hard. You need to step away from the computer." Yeah, I do work too hard. Yes, I do need to step away from the computer. And do I have fun? Yes, I do. So, one of my heroes right now, and heroes can change, is Pink. I did not know as much about her before my husband was kind enough to take me to her concert for my birthday. By the way, I hate it when women talk about their husbands on and on and on, so let me stop. But give me some space because I'm a newlywed. Pink. Wow. It's not about her music. It's about her. I mean, this woman almost died from a drug overdose. And it was people who wanted her to be what they thought she should be. And she had the courage to say, "Hell no, I'm going to be me." And then you listen to everything she does. And, I'm sure she's a pain in the ass and has done many things that would piss me off as a follower. But there's a value statement that I see. And that's all I need to know. It's what I see, right? And I think, yeah, there's a lot that can be learned. I'm sure there's a lot that you don't want to learn, but there's a lot that can be learned from this woman. When I saw her in concert, there was a young kid, and I think he might have been from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And she was talking about being happy, and she looked at him and she said, "Are you happy?" And he said, "No, I'm sad." She literally stopped the concert. And she said, "Don't be sad. Be happy." And she sung a song to him. Yeah. I said, and then in the interview, let me just sum it up. She's a kick-ass woman. And I have so much respect for women like that, who have stumbled, gotten up, shaken it off, and said, "Let's go."
I too have much respect for men and women who've done this, including yourself. And the question that I have now here for you, CB, is what about if the courage to follow our own true north, who we truly are, will, at least in the short term, create some pain for other people that we care about? What then?
It's a tough question. I'm not sure I'm the best to answer it. I think the answer is acknowledge it. Number one, of course. Two is if you can have the courage to discuss it with other people and say, "This is where I'd like to go. Are you okay with this? Or if I'm going to offend you, please know that I'm not. I'm just trying to get to this space. So maybe you can guide me in when I've gone too far." I said to my board the other day, the board of advisors, it was a New Year's meeting, and we have some new members, and I said to them, "Look, I appear to be a tough ass woman. I want you to know I'm very sensitive. If I say something, however, that offends you, please tell me, but tell me offline and tell me in a kind way. Because I know as the leader, I'm going to step on some toes. It won't be intentional, but it may be taken that way. And I don't want any gray to block our connection. So let me just say upfront, tell me." That's my approach. I don't know how I can advise for other approaches.
Yeah. I think it's very wise advice. And it's also transferable to, as a leader or as a parent or otherwise, to give feedback to others.
Yes.
Whether it's feedback about their own performance and how they can improve, or whether it's feedback about how we wish for them to be with us or support us, or or at least just informing them of what is important to us, what we need. I think that when we do it with heart, with a genuine intent to support and uplift, and that can include to support and uplift ourselves so that we could be a better spouse, parent, friend, team member, whatever that might be. I think that there's a compassion and a curiosity that comes with that. And I think it opens up the door for more courage for other people, because they may not be as threatened by what we share if we share it from the heart, especially if we share how we feel. I mean, people can't really object how we feel. They can object maybe what we want to do or whatever. but nobody can say, how you feel, how I feel is wrong, because it's how we feel. And so I think that when we come from that place, and
Well, I'm not sure I agree with you wholeheartedly.
please,
I think I'm going to respectfully disagree with you.
please.
And people can't tell us how we feel. I think that, and I'm just thinking this through, everybody. I think people can tell us. The question is how they tell us. So let me give you an example. If you're depressed, but you think you're okay and you're going along, oh, I'll give you a really good example. When my fiance passed away, I was going along, feeling sad. And one of my colleagues at work said, CB, you need to see a therapist. And I said, no, I don't. I'm fine. And she had lost her husband due to suicide. And she said, CB, you're not fine. You think you're fine, but you need to see a therapist. And I said, why? He said, because you don't know that you're not fine. You're in a state of shock. I said, shock? Well, I'm not sure I agree with you. What does that look like? When I went to see the therapist, he explained to me it was the exact behavior I was doing. I was putting it out of my mind, pushing it away. I didn't want to feel that grief. And it wasn't that I was intentional about it.
Yeah.
So she understood how I felt more than I did. So that's why I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. Now,
actually, forgive me for interrupting. I think we actually agree on the same thing. And let me explain. So I agree with you 100% that it's important and it takes courage to be able to share with people how we sense that they may be feeling. I think that when it's a compassionate, curious place, it brings rapport, brings us in sync. There's actually a technique that I teach called coherent communication that actually does that. And it's very, very powerful. My intention was, and it's, is that if I share, let's say with you, CB, I am worried about something, right? That you would not be able to tell me, no, Vera, that's not how you feel, right?
Or you shouldn't worry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's how we feel.
Yeah.
And that's something that we own. And when we express that, there's a vulnerability to it, a gentleness to it, and people can do with it what they wish, but it's very difficult to argue with how somebody feels.
Yes. Yeah. I agree with that. I totally agree. Yeah.
And I think to the point of the example, again, bringing it back to courage, what your beautiful friend did is such a loving thing to do, because when we are sometimes in a very incoherent place, we just can't see what we can't see.
Yes.
And, we're under the illusion, whether it's because of shock or because of denial or because our unconscious mind is just trying to get us to survive and get through the day step by step, that we don't have access consciously to what is actually happening. Other people can see it, but we may be under the illusion that we're fine. And I think it's such a loving, courageous thing to be able to reflect to somebody, right? I care, I'm noticing this, and just to bring awareness. The person has a choice. Do I want to accept this and do something about it, right? Like, let's say, go see a therapist or self-reflect on it or not. But it's a very loving thing to be able to give it to somebody else.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Yeah,
Without
I totally, from that perspective, because I can't stand it when people say to me, well, no, you shouldn't be feeling that way. Yeah, I should, because that's the way I feel. Yeah, totally agree.
And just like, when we said earlier, you had the courage to be with your own feelings, right? To let's say allow yourself to be sad or have a pity party for a while, right? And before choosing to, to take action and shift things around. It's the same thing kind of with all of us. Like we must meet ourselves where we are, and we must allow ourselves to meet others where they are. Because
Yeah.
if I say to you, CB, you should do that, right? But if you're in a disempowered place, I first need to meet you where you are, to have rapport with you there, and then to maybe invite you to see another perspective. But I first got to meet you where you are. Otherwise, chances are that you're not even going to accept any suggestions that I may have to help you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. One of the discussions I seem to be having with men, particularly these days, is I said men particularly because let me explain it. It's both men and women, but men are told that they cannot express upset to the point of crying. And I have to say, and I'm sure you're going to get lots of complaints, I think it is the fault of women, because we've been trained that men are stoic, shouldn't express their feelings. They're fixers. They can solve things. They should not show that emotion of crying. And I have this belief that this is why men die of heart attacks so much earlier than women, because they keep it all inside. And we have to, as strong women, we have the benefit as a strong woman of being able to shed tears. Men don't have that benefit. And we as women have to give them that benefit and say, it's okay.
I think there's something very powerful about that. And I see it rather than, than man as a man, the physical male person as male energy. And I think that male energy sometimes is with women as well. I think the idea here is to bring more of that nurturing, to allow more and give permission for more, maybe even ask for more of that nurturing energy, that feminine energy. I think that the beautiful harmony of both, the dichotomy male female, right, conscious unconscious, right, there are different ways to look at it. I think that the marriage of both is the ultimate empowerment. It's the left and right hand, right, and or two sides of the same coin. And so I think that when men or women, right, when they suppress their emotions, they're upset, their tears, or on the opposite end of the scale, people that are, overly empowered, right? Or overly sensitive to the point that they're not connected to their own empowerment, right? I think like both sides are needed, I think, for a more integrated, empowered self. And so I see courage as the courage to allow all of the parts of ourselves to be seen and heard and validated, so that we can make an objective choice as to what is highest and best for us. And that objective choice is not in that moment connected to any baggage, any of our old conditioning, what our fathers did, our mothers did, what was said, not said, all of that stuff that was modeled to us. But it's really the most courageous choice for us in the moment, because it's one that is connected to our true self, who we truly are, liberated from all of that. So,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there's something you said that was very powerful. You said something, all of our parts. And I think that people, let's not do that. Let's say myself didn't realize that we have different parts. I think that's a place to start, because I know I have just sort of mushed everything into one. And so it would take somebody like you to say, yeah, but you have different parts, CB. And those different parts can respond differently to different situations, right? And one part of you can impact the other part that you're not necessarily connecting, right?
Right.
A really good example is I just had to put down my 14-year-old companion.
So sorry.
Oh, don't even get me started. And I was on a board call and I could not frame my sentences. I couldn't speak. Now, this happened in November that I had to put him down. And the meeting was yesterday. I'm like, what the heck is going on with me? I'm like, I couldn't get words out of my mouth. I couldn't remember the words. And I realized today that experience of losing him, putting him down, is still with me. And I did not connect the parts. So I think it's so important for your listeners to hear what you just said. Those different parts are interrelated. Yeah.
Yeah. And that takes courage to be with how we feel, to allow others to be with how they feel. Yeah.
No.
And to find our true north, to find what is my truth, and to have the courage to do what it takes to take those actions to align with our true, authentic self. That's a life of integrity, and that's a life of, I believe, fulfillment.
And going back to something that you said before, realizing those different paths and allowing yourself to feel the emotion for those different parts. You asked me if somebody is troubled, how do they get through it? And I think, well, I know the first step that I give in my book of the 7-step process is to first admit it.
Mm.
That there takes humongous courage to say, you know what? I'm not all that I thought I was. I'm not superhero here. Okay, I need help. Now, before we can ask for help, we need to figure out not exactly, that sounds too precise. We need to figure out what kind of help and when do we need that help. And I feel most importantly, how will we pay it back? Even though we're not asked to pay it back, how will we think about it? Now, so for example, there are times when you will relate to somebody that's incredibly powerful. I have a mentor who's exceptionally wealthy. And I'm always thinking, how do I pay back the advice I've received? And the fact is, I can't match him dollar for dollar. And he wouldn't want that. But you know, at Christmas time, that dog of his gets presents for me. So I think thinking in kindness for people that help you and have, it's really important for everybody to know, have your posse selected before you need them.
Wow.
And share with them how you receive their advice best. What do I mean by that? Like I said with my board, told them I'm sensitive. Don't get upset with me in the meeting because then I'm going to hit back. Tell me offline when I can listen, absorb, and think about how I can solve this. Let's have a discussion. I need to learn what I did wrong. I need to understand how it affected you. And what do I need to do next?
Wow. Well, CB, I just have a heart full of gratitude for you and for all of the wonderful, incredible nuggets of wisdom that you've shared with us today, your stories, which I think, even if you just shared the stories themselves, would have already opened up many minds and hearts and ignited courage all around the world. And I thank you for everything that you are giving And I invite people to order your book. And so how can they learn more about the book, the 7 steps, and of course also about your incredible keynotes and all the other programs that you do?
Well, not to push a particular company, but I'm on LinkedIn. I'm all about the LinkedIn. I have a newsletter on LinkedIn. I have a profile. You can reach me. Hey, my email address is pretty simple. It's cb@cbbowman.com.
Congratulations on following the inspiration to write the book, having the courage to get out there and share it with the world, and to uplift. And I wish for everybody to have the relationship they want, go to the school that they want, have the job they want, to live their best life. And that takes courage. So we thank you for everything that you've shared today.
Thank you so much for letting me share. I am over the top excited that you have amazing listeners, amazing followers, and please reach out.